Hi folks, this is Karim Rauf from Untitled Chapter. We will continue our lab, the Red Alert Lab. This is the video number 15. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have created we have previously created privilege access workstation, and this is a kind of workstation that we join it to the domain and we do certain configuration to it to be very secure when connecting to our domain or to our Active Directory. And the purpose of this workstation only is to connect to the Active Directory. So this is its only purpose or its only objective. So you cannot use it to access the internet, you cannot use it to receive or send emails. It's only dedicated to connecting to the Active Directory. So this we have done a couple of group policies and a couple of settings in these group policies to secure the privilege access workstation. One of them is to block the USB. So this is one of the things this workstation should have. You should block all USB to this workstation, and you should block the internet and allow only, if you are an Azure administrator, you can only allow the Azure administrator to access the Azure portal to manage the cloud VMs or the cloud virtual machines. And one of the things is to limit the access of the other IT in the other tiers to access the PAW or to access the workstations in your tier. If we remember the graph, so this is our graph. We have the main office and there is IT in the main office, and then we have every tier. Okay, this is the Russian tier, the Ally tier, the Japanese tier, or we can call the main office tier 0, the most important one, and then tier 1 the Ally, and then tier 2 the Japanese, and then tier 3 the Russian army. So this PAW or this workstation, we have done a couple of configuration to secure it, as I said before, to block the USB, to block the internet, and allow only access to the internet to the Azure portal to manage the cloud machines. And another thing is also to block any IT from any tier. So the Russian tier cannot access PAW in the Ally tier, or the Japanese IT cannot access PAW in the Ally tier. So every IT will only access his PAW in his tier. Okay, and actually this also applies to the admins or to domain admin. The domain admin cannot access PAW in other tiers, he only can access PAW in his tier. So this is a very secure thing to do, to block the domain admins from accessing any workstations in any tier, so the hacker cannot hack the account. Okay, this is one of the things. And to secure access to the PAW, we have done created two groups in the Active Directory for every tier. One of them is called PAW users. This is the group that will contain the users that will only access the PAW. Okay, and these users are or have rights to manage the Active Directory. Okay, so this is one. And then we have another group called PAW admins. This is a group that will contain users that will be local administrators on the PAW machines. So you have two things. You have PAW users and you have PAW admins. And we have said before, every IT in any tier should have 3 accounts: one to manage the Active Directory, and one to manage the workstations locally in his tier except for the PAW, and the last user will be to manage the PAW or to be a local administrator on the PAW. So to secure secure access to the PAW, we need to make a separate account to manage it locally, and to use an account to connect to the Active Directory through it. Okay, and through the group policy we will limit only these two groups to access this PAW workstation. So only these two groups will be allowed to log in locally on this machine or through network. Okay, these two or the three workstations. Okay, and by the way, you will not be able to access the PAW, okay, remotely, so you should access the PAW physically from the location. So this is one of the secure, or one of the measures of security, to access the PAW from the location or from your office, not to access it remotely. So this is one of the things to secure the connection, or to make it very secure to access the PAW only from the location of the machine, not remotely from another office or from another thing. So we can guarantee that the remote connection will not be hacked. So we have done this in the previous video. We have done group policies to secure the PAW. We have created groups to secure or to limit access to the PAW only to these groups, and we limit access the internet to only to the Azure admins or administrators, and we have done a lot of things. We need now in this video to test these settings. So what we will do, we will go to the Ally Army, okay, and we will create a new virtual machine, okay, that will be the privilege access workstation in the Ally Army. So before, if you remember that my PAW was in the global, or it is in tier 0. The one that I have created earlier in the video was created under the main office or under the tier 0 location. So I need now to go and create a new virtual machine. This virtual machine will be a new PAW privilege access workstation, but in tier 1 or in the Ally Army. So we need to create this machine and then test if these two groups can access this PAW, and if any other group attempt to access this PAW, what will be the result, and to test if the Azure administrators can access the internet, and try another Azure administrators accounts in the Active Directory can access the PAW and access the internet, and have another user that it is not an Azure administrator, and see if we can access the internet. So we need to test all what we have done before in the video, to test it on a virtual machine, on a PAW workstation in one of the tiers. And we need also to test to see if the domain admin can access the PAW workstation in the Ally Army, for example. So let's see how this will be done. So this video are testing the privileges, or testing the setting that we have done to secure our PAW. So let's see how this will be done. So first of all, we will go and open our VM Workstation Pro. And then we will open the domain controller, and then we will open the PAW. So this is the PAW in the main office, or this is PAW in tier 0. Okay, so let me show you all here in the graph. So this PAW, okay, its location, it is in the main office, or it's in tier 0. Okay, so we need to create another PAW, but in tier 1. Okay, so we will name it PAW2. We will not name it PAW, we name it PAW2. So let's see what this PAW2 we can test on it our settings or our hardening group policy. So now we will open the primary domain controller, okay, and then we will open the PAW, our PAW in our main office. So here you go, this is our primary domain controller, and this is our PAW, and now we will open it. And then I need to pause the video, so wait for a moment. Now what we will do, we need to create, or we tell him to create another virtual machine, and we will name it PAW2. So let me pause the video for a moment. So let's continue, guys. Now here we will, just a moment, now we will begin. So we have opened our primary domain controller, our PAW. Now we will create a new virtual machine. Take here a note, this is PAW3. So here we will go to the Ally organizational unit, and we have 3 PAWs. Okay, this will be our PAW3. We will name it Computer PAW3. So this will be our privilege access workstation for the Ally Army. We will create it and then join it to the domain, and then we will test the different setting that we have done in the previous video. So now we will open it, and then we tell him new virtual machine, next, and then how we have done this, I can get you another way. So now we will go and, okay, first of all, as I said before, now we will go and see the name of the machine, it's PAW3, and this is PAW4, and we have PAW5. So here we will create a machine called PAW3 and join it to domain. Okay, so now we'll tell him file and then new VM. Okay, so this is it. Just a moment. Not edit, we'll go to file and then new virtual machine, and then we tell him typical setting, and then next we'll install operating system later. This system should be Windows 10 64-bit, and then we will name it PAW3, and then next, and then we will give it a hard disk of 100 gigabytes. We should have any machine that have Windows 10, we should have a hard disk more than 100 giga, because the operating system should be installed on a partition minimum of 150. So you have the C partition to be 150 gigabyte, and then you can leave the rest to be a second partition. Okay, and the more, of course, the best. And then we'll begin customizing the hardware. Because I have a limited hardware, I will give it only 1 gigabyte of RAM, and we will configure the network, which is VMnet 8. This is our network that all of our machines are attached to it, and we'll give it one processor, and I will install Windows 10 LTSC version 1809 on it, sorry, 1709 on it. And this is a special edition of Windows 10 Enterprise. It's called Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC. It has a lot of features. I have discussed this earlier in many playlists. I can give you the link in the description to discuss or to see what are the benefits of using Windows 10 LTSC Enterprise as an operating system for your workstations. So now we will customize the hardware, and then we will give it 1 gigabyte of RAM, and then we will give it one processor. Okay, and then we will put it on the network of VMnet 8. All of our machines are on VMnet 8, or our virtual machines are on VMnet 8. This is the internal network name, and then we should edit the virtual machine setting and mount the ISO image for the Windows 10 LTSC. So we'll go to browse, and then go to the ISO image, important CD images. Then we have Windows 10 Enterprise LTSC August edition. Then we will mount it here. This operating system, when we go to the options and advanced, this operating system doesn't work with the UEFI firmware, so it works with BIOS. A best practice is to only have operating system that support UEFI and secure boot. This DVD that I have, or this image of Windows 10, or this ISO image of Windows 10 LTSC, doesn't support UEFI. So it's a best practice to have an operating system to support UEFI and to enable secure boot. This to secure your workstation from being hacked, by some malware, or to be infected by some malware that infects the boot sector, or infect the boot files of the operating system. So you need to support, or to have all of your PCs support UEFI, okay, or to have a firmware of UEFI, and to have operating system support this kind of firmware. So now we will tell him to have BIOS, and then we will share some folders between this virtual machine and my PC or my laptop, or between my host and my guest. So now I have done this before in creating all of the virtual machines in this lab. So now we will share 3 folders from my laptop, important CD images, and we have Kareem folder and another folder. All of these are shared between my host and my guest, okay, or between my laptop and my virtual machine. So just to make it easier to transfer files between both of my laptop and my virtual machines. Okay, next, all of these are folders, and then next, and then we should have another folder shared. Okay, AD collection. Okay, so this is a lot of tools I use. Okay, and then we'll tell him add the snapshots. When I power off the virtual machine, you should ask me if I should take a snapshot, or retrieve a snapshot, or do nothing, okay, or just power it on. Now we will power on the virtual machine and then install Windows. This is a typical Windows installation, so we have done this many times through configuring the PAW workstation and the Tank 10 workstation. We have done this before, so we will pass all of this, or we will do it very quickly. We need only to rename this workstation and join it to the domain, okay, and install. And by the way, a best practice to have your PAW or your machine that will be dedicated to connect to your Active Directory. This should have a static IP address, okay. So if your DHCP is down, you can use this machine to access the Active Directory, or to access the domain controller. So we have done this in PAW 1. This one we have give it a static IP address. Now we will give this also a static IP address and fill all of the network setting manually. So any workstation, it will take an IP address from the DHCP. So this is a normal thing, but as for the PAW, we will give all of the PAWs in our network static IP address. So if the DHCP is down, we can still access the domain and still access the domain controllers and the Active Directory. So we will do this. Now we will configure it, and then it will take a little bit of time. We need to choose Windows 10 Enterprise Ltsc 2019 digital license activation, okay, and then accept the license agreement. Next, then custom installation, and then we have an unallocated hard disk. We will make two partitions. The first partition will be 60 gigabyte. I said before, it is recommended to have the partition of the operating system to be 150 gigabyte or more, okay, and the other partition you can make it as you like, okay. So now we have configured our first partition, and then we will have the second one to be a second partition, 40 gigabyte, and then format it as NTFS, and then click on partition 2 and install the operating system on it, okay. So now we will pause the video, okay, and we will pass all of the typical operating system, just a moment, typical operating system setting. Now we are on our PAW, and then we will type something called, or we will have the run. We'll click start or right click and then run, and then type cmd, and then type the command of ipconfig/all. This will give us the IP or the network setting for this workstation, okay, or this PAW. As we said before, here this is a static IP address, so it is 1.7. This is a static IP address, and as we can see here, it doesn't have a default gateway, so it doesn't have access to the internet. We will go and take an IP address of 1.6 and put it on PAW 3, but the difference here that we will add a default gateway, so we can test the group policy that will block internet access. We will have block internet access to certain users and allow internet access to certain users. So here we will take IP address of 1.6, and then we will go here and put it static IP address to the PAW workstation. So now we are pausing the video, okay, and we will finish the installation of the Windows. So here we I think I'm just revising the group policies. Here this is the restriction. I think we can pass this real quickly, guys, we don't need it anyway. Okay, so now we will go, and now we have finished the installation of Windows, and then we have a user called Karim Raouf or kraouf2. This is a local administrator on the machine. Still we didn't join this machine to the domain, so we will log in locally. We have to install Vmware Tools. This is the first thing you need to do when you are creating a virtual machine on VMware environment, especially after installing Windows. You need to go and install Vmware Tools. This will ease the communication between your laptop and this virtual machine. So now we will log in locally, and then we will install VMware Tools and change the name of this virtual machine to be PAW 3, and then join it to the domain. So now we will install VMware Tools, okay, and then okay, we need to have some icons appearing on the desktop, so I need to right click this PC and or properties. I think let's wait for a moment. Oh, this is the VMware Tools. Okay, this is setup because this is 64-bit system, so we will initialize the setup 64-bit file. So now as we can see here, this is something called, if we can go a little bit further here, if what is this message or why this message appears, just wait for a moment. Because this is called user access control. This is a kind of mechanism in Windows that will ask you every time a program needs to run something or a service needs to run a program, it will give you this notification. This is critical also, or very important, to prevent some kind of malware attack. Okay, so this is called user access control. In some environment these are disabled for certain reasons. For example, the antiviruses are not working perfectly when the user access control is enabled, so we will disable this kind of protection. Okay, but this should not be a problem, or it will not affect the security of the machine. But anyway, this is called user access control, so take care of this. And tell him yes, and then we install the VMware Tools, and then right click here and manage. This we will see a couple of things in this machine, or we'll see the local users and groups on this machine need to be very careful, because after joining it to the domain, these local users and groups will be changed according to our group policy that are applied to the PAW. We have two group policies applied to the PAW: PAW computer configuration and PAW user configuration. So now if you go to properties, it will take a little bit of time. So now here we will go and change the computer name. This is one, and we will have a look on the local users and local groups in this workstation, and we will notice the difference after this machine has joined the domain. We will see the local users and groups are changed, or some of the membership of the local groups are changed. This is the VMware Tools installation. We tell him complete installation and then install, and then we need to go. Here is the local users and groups. Take a look here. If you go up here, we can see that there is a local administrator. Okay, we have two administrators. This is the built-in local administrator, and it is disabled by default in Windows 10. So this is it. And we have another local administrator I have created during the installation of the Windows called KRAOF2. So we have two local administrators. We will have a group policy, okay, that will change this from administrator to KRAOF. Okay, so there is a group policy to change this user, and it is a best practice to change the built-in local administrator on the machine from administrator to any other name, because hackers know this quite well. So we will change it. It will be changed automatically to KRAOF, and if we wait for a couple of seconds, okay, by the way, this administrator and KRAOF are a member of a group called administrator, so take care. This is disabled, this will be not disabled, and this will be renamed to another name, and these two will be a member of a group. If I show you all where is this group, let's wait for a moment and I'll show you what I mean. So we have administrator and KRAOF. If you go to groups, there is a group called administrators. Wait for a moment, here is administrators. So what you can see here, we have two users, the administrator, which is disabled, and KRAOF, which is now active and running. So after applying the group policy of PAW that we have created earlier, we will see that KRAOF will be removed from the administrators group, and only one and administrator will be kept. KRAOF will be removed, and there is another user which called PAW2 will be an administrator to to this machine. So kraof will be removed, administrator will sit still, but any other member or any other user in the administrator's group, unless it is administrator, will be removed and will have PAW2 added. This is the local administrator of the PAW that we have created earlier. And we will see the members of the other groups. Remember that we have a group policy to remove every member in every group in this workstation. Backup operators should be without any members. A cryptic group will without any members in it, and power usage should not have any members in it. We will test this one by one. So let's wait and see. So we have here backup operators. By the way, I can tell you something here. Windows 10 Ltsc by default, you will see that all of these local groups doesn't have any members. So this is one of the things also that encouraged me to install this operating system. So you don't have any kind of members in any one of these groups except for the administrators. Okay, so let's continue. Now we need to install this VMware Tools, and then we need to join this machine to the domain. And let's see, after applying the group policies, what will happen. We need to test it through using 3 users. One will be the local administrator of the PAW, one will be an administrator in the Active Directory, and the third will be a normal user that is not an Active Directory user or a local administrator. So we can test all of the machines or test all of the users and see the different configuration for every user. Now I need to have certain icons on the desktop, so we can wait a couple of seconds. So now we are moving the backups. Now we can see that the screen flickered, so this means that it has installed a graphic or a video driver. Now we need to restart, but before restarting we need to change the machine name from desktop blah 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 to PAW3. Now we will go to themes in personalize and add or make a couple of icons appear on the desktop. So now we go desktop icons, and then we need to check computer box and user files and control panel and network. So we have all of these icons appearing on the desktop. Then we need to change the setting, which will lead us to a field to change the computer name, and then we will change the computer name to PAW3, and then we can restart the machine. Okay, and after restarting the machine we will set an IP address to the machine. Okay, so here the name will be changed after restarting the machine. So we will pause the video. Now we have logged in back, and then we go to the control panel and then add the IP address of this machine, which will be a static IP address. So now we will go and open the network and sharing center. Okay, and then we will add the static IP address, which will be 192.168.1.6. so here is the network and sharing. And then Ethernet, and then properties, and then we will go to the TCP IP and then properties, and then we will set an IP address 192.168.1.6 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255, and we will add a default gateway. This is the main difference between this machine as a PAW and this machine. This machine we didn't add a default gateway, so we don't have internet. This machine we will have internet, but it will be filtered, or it will be allowed to some users and blocked to other users. Okay, so now we will have this machine have a gateway, and then we'll put the primary domain controller, which is a DNS or primary DNS, and the second domain controller, which is also a secondary DNS. So now we have these two IP addresses set. We will close, and remember we didn't add to this PAW the secondary DNS. We have only added the primary DNS. So I have mistaken, or I have forgot to do this, so I need to go and add the secondary DNS. Now I type run and cmd and then type ipconfig/all to revise the setting for this machine. Here I didn't have only this is the primary DNS. We need to have the secondary DNS added also. Okay, so we need to go and open the control panel and then add the secondary DNS, which is our secondary or additional domain controller. So we go to the network setting. Remember guys to do this because this have static IP or static network settings, so we need to take care of this. Okay, so now we go to properties and then we will go to options or internet protocol and then add 192.168.1.9. see here that default gateway is not added. Okay, so this is the difference between this and this. You can choose whatever you like, if you need to have it to access the internet or not. So you can not add the default gateway, so you can pass the default gateway. Okay, so now we need to go and type cmd, right click and run and cmd and then type ipconfig/all to check the settings. So now we have this as 1.6 and everything is configurable, or everything is configured correctly. We need to join this machine to the domain. So we'll right click and then properties, and then we need to change setting and then change and then tell him to join the domain. So we'll tell him red alert, and then we need to provide a user that have the privilege to join machines to the domain, which is the domain admin. Now this is SCADA off, and then we will join this machine to the domain, and then we will test 3 users with 3 different privileges on the machine, or 3 different rights on the machine. One accessing the Active Directory, one to manage the machine locally, and the other doesn't have any rights at all. So we can see the differences. Okay, so now we need to go, I think, just wait for a moment. I think we can go and see if our PAW, it is in our here we're checking the PAW users. We need to have, we have 2 users in the PAW group in the ally army. So here we can see, guys, if you can go there in the PAW users, here we have 2 users, and in the PAW admins we have 1 user. So let's see here, these 2 users, which is Kelvin McDonald. Ignore this one, so we will try Kelvin McDonald. Kelvin McDonald is a PAW user. Okay, and what I mean by a PAW user, a user that can access the PAW workstation and work on the Active Directory only. So he is not a local administrator on the machine. We need to test it and see. And this is a normal user, doesn't have any rights on the Active Directory or any rights on the local machine. This is a normal user. We will test and see if he can access the Active Directory, if he can access the internet. We will test and see. Okay, and then we will go to another group. So this is Kelvin McDonald. We need to here we will have another group called PAW maintenance or PAW admins. There is a user in this group which is PAW maintenance user. This is the local administrator on PAW. So we need also to log in and see if I can be a local administrator on the PAW. And by the way, as we said before, we have set 3 users. We have IT Workstation Admin 2 and Kelvin McDonald and PAW maintenance users. All of these 3 users have access to the PAW. Okay, but with different rights. We will test them one by one, and then we will get a user from the tier 0. Okay, which is this one. Let me show you all. We will get a user in this tier 0 domain admin and see if he can access the PAW. So let's see if this will apply. So now we will go and open, or let's see also the members of the PAW maintenance of the ally. So I think this is playing accounts. You have 2. Here are the 2 users that will access the PAW, Kelvin McDonald and IT Workstation Admin. So we have 2 users that will access the machine, but this, by the way, it's not allowed to access the machine. This is a local admin on the other machines, not the PAW. So it should not be in this group, or it should not be in a PAW users group anyway, but I will just for the info to show you if this user doesn't have any access on the machine anyway. So we will see and test the different setting for our PAW. So now, as for the PAW users, we can see that it is Kelvin McDonald and Workstation. We need to reset the password for every one of them, so I just need to reset password for this user and this user so I can access the machine and see. So let's reset the password, okay, and reset this password and join or see these two users logging into the machine and see what they can do. Okay, so now we have reset the password. Okay, this is the first one, and then the second one, and the second one. Okay, here we have it. This is Kelvin McDonald. We will reset the password. I'm just revising the setting. Okay, it's called DM or D McDonald. This is the username, so we need to reset the password because I don't know the password, so I will reset it. Okay, and then I will log in with these two users on the PAW and PAW2, the three users, and then I will log in with the domain admin on this PAW and see if I have access on the machine or not. So now we have reset these two passwords. Let's see now if we go, and this is the URL. It says that you need to test, okay, the admin account, which is the PAW maintenance. It's a member of the PAW maintenance group. So we'll go to the IT group. Sorry guys, now here we will open and then tell him okay. Then we will use IT admin, not admin. Okay, by the way, this is not the correct one. So not admin. This is not the admin. We will tell him not this one. Okay, so this is not correct. Okay, we will tell him IT admin tool. This is a user of the group of PAW. So now we will log in, not care of. So this is the local administrator on this machine. And by the way, if I try to access, okay, he will not let me access because I am not a member of this local, or by the way, this is the local administrator on the machine. The group policy that will be applied on the PAW will remove this user from the local administrators group on this machine. So I will not be able to access this machine as a local administrator. Okay, we will see that. We will see the local users and groups on this machine. So here I am not allowed, so I am not an administrator anymore. So that means that the PAW group policy is applied. The only one that will be a local administrator on this machine will be PAW2. So let's here first log in. Here this is correct, so this is telling me I am correct. Let me check the groups and see if Keraof is a member of this local administrator group. So now we will tell him ITW admin tool. This is a PAW user. Okay, he doesn't have access to the Active Directory, but he is a normal user, doesn't have any access or any privileges. Okay, so let's see if this user can access the Active Directory or can change anything on this machine. He is not a local administrator, he is a normal user. So let's test this setting and see. Here we can see a couple of things. We can see that the Cortana is the Active Directory login script is applied. So I think we can pass this real quickly. So let him right click and manage, and let's check and see the users and groups. And by the way, sometimes you need to refresh the group policy or to reinforce the group policy because sometimes it is not applied directly or immediately. So if you go to local users and groups and then we go to users, here we can see Keraof, he is a user. Okay, and by the way, if you have something here to see, this was called administrator, but now it is changed. It changed to Keraof. So this is done by the default domain policy. So we have changed it from administrator to Keraof, and the second administrator is still there. It's not disabled, but we will see that he will not be a member of the administrators group anymore. So let's wait and see. If we go and open groups and then administrators, here we can see that where is Keraof to? Kira of 2 is removed. Okay, so Kira of 2 is removed. We have another, or we have two users. Now PAW 2 is the local administrator. This is the one that we need this user to be an administrator, but we need to remove Kira of, this is the domain admin account, so we need to remove it. So we will go to the group policy and edit it and remove Karim. We need to have two users only in the administrators group, the local or the default administrator account, which is renamed from administrator to Kira of, and PAW 2, this is the new local administrator on the machine. So we need to remove Karim from the equation. So we will go and change the group policy. So this is correct. Now Kira of is not an admin. Okay, and by the way, ITW admin 2 is not a local administrator. Okay, so this is one of the things, our group policy is applied, but we need to change the group policy. So we can go further, apply and OK, and we need to go to the group policy. So here we will go to the group policy, configuration computer, and then we will remove the domain admin account from the equation. So now we have the PAW computer configuration. We'll go to the Windows setting, okay, Windows setting, and then user rights, local policies, and then user rights, and then login locally, and then you can see that only allowed to access are the administrators and the PAW users. Okay, but there is another setting that you specify the members of the group of the administrators. So this is not the one that we will change. Here I'm just revising. Here the administrators will, or the group of local administrators will be allowed to access the machine, and the PAW users. Okay, and the ITW admin 2 is a member of this group, by the way. So this is not the one that we need to change. We need to change another setting, which is not this one. Let me show you also. We'll go there and we will open something else. Just a moment. We will go and open the computer configuration. So again, guys, here we go. We will open the PAW computer configuration, and then we'll go to the preferences. So this is the one, and then we'll go to the control panel. Okay, and then we will open the local users and groups. Remember the setting that we have done. We go to the administrators, and then we tell him to remove Kira of. This is the domain admin account, so we need to change it or need to remove it. I need only the administrator, okay, which is already there. So I will remove this too. By the way, if you remove Kira of, this is already done, so you don't need to add it to our group policy. So what we will do, you need only to state PAW 2. So you remove this too. If you remove administrator, still he will be in the member of the local administrators group. So we remove these two and leave only PAW 2 in the members of the administrators. So we'll do this. Let me pass it real quickly. Also, we will remove Kira of. You need to remove Kira of. No, this should be removed, by the way. Anyway, and then we will restart, or we will make a command to reapply the group policy, which is called GP update /force. This is something, but anyway, we can restart the machine, or we can apply or reapply the group policy using a command. Anyway, so if we right click on properties, what will happen? Just check. If I need to check something in the setting of the machine, take a good look what will happen. Here, this user on this machine is not a local administrator. When I try to change any setting, he will tell me that you are not the admin. You need to provide, or not the local admin on the machine, you need to provide an account. So we will provide PAW 2 user, so we can change any setting on this machine. So this is also another thing. If we go there and we will go and put, just a moment, we'll put PAW. So okay, just a moment here again. So what we will do, we will put PAW 2, this is our local administrator, and then we will put the password. So now I can access the setting of the machine and change it, because this is the local administrator of the machine. So now our group policy is in effect. Now the PAW 2 user is working. So now we need to use another user which have access to the internet and see, and access with another user that doesn't have access to the internet and see if our group policy for blocking internet will work. Now we need to go to this machine and apply the group policy. I think just a moment here what I'm doing, I think I am this is something related to the ally. Okay, not this one. Anyway, so we will restart the machine. Okay, and then we will log in back. Okay, and then I need to try the user of Kelvin. I think work with Kelvin. No, ITW admin. Still we will use the same user, and then we will go and check a couple of things. I think here I am just checking if the Active Directory login script is working anyway, so we can go further here. So if we go to manage, okay, we will check again the local users and groups. So if you can go there, here we can see that's still the same. Raouf is there, and this is one, and we can go further and check another thing. So just a moment, guys. So here again, just wait for a moment. Here we need to go as a domain admin account. So here first go, I think, go to the administrators. I think just a moment. We need to go to administrators. I think just a moment. So we will go to administrators. Just a moment. Let's see. We'll go to administrators, and then here we can see that only Karim Raouf as an admin, the domain admin. This is Raouf, the local admin, and we have Raouf, the domain admin. It was removed, and we have only two in the administrators local group. We need now to access this machine as a domain admin account and see if I will be allowed. So let's see if we go there. So what I will do here, I will go and sign out, and then try to access this machine by the domain admin account. I will not. So let's see first. Do not red alert, and then this is Raouf. This is the domain admin account. This is not the local administrator. I have the same name for the two, but this is not correct. You need to differentiate between the local administrator and the domain admin. So here if I try to log in with the domain admin account, remember I have a group policy to block every IT tier to access the other IT's workstations. So now if we go to this PDF, this presentation, the domain admin is isolated from here and here and here, so he cannot access anything in this tier or in this tier or in this tier. So let's see if I will have access. So now if I type the password, okay, what we will do here, I am not allowed. So now this is correct. This is our group policy applied. Now we need to access with a user that have internet access, okay, which is Kelvin McDonald. Kelvin McDonald is a PAW user, and he is also an Azure administrator, so he can access the internet to manage virtual machines on the cloud. So we need to see this in action, so we can go and see. If we go there, this is McDonald, DC McDonald, and then we will access. We will see if the proxy server setting that we had applied before will be working with this user. Just a moment here. This is the correct DC McDonald, so this is not the correct one. DC McDonald, and then we will type the password. And then we will see if the group policy or the proxy setting will be applied. So now we can open the start and then see. First I think we need to manage this user. By the way, he can access the Active Directory, but he is not a local administrator. Okay, remember Kelvin McDonald, he is the IT of the Ally Army. He can access the Active Directory and create users in his tier, but he is not a local administrator on this machine. So if we try to tell him manage, and then what we will do, we'll do something here, manage. Okay, just a moment. Here we will go. What we will do, we will do a small test. Now what we will do here, just a moment, I will show you all something here. Here we will try to create a user. So here we will go and just a moment, I think you need to go past it here real quickly again. So we need to create a new user. Okay, I'll try to create a user, and then we will type a password and the username. Kelvin McDonald, he is the Active Directory admin for his tier, but he is not the local administrator for this machine. So if he try to create a local user on the machine, he will not be able to do this. So this is separating managing the machine from managing the Active Directory. So now if you try to do this and put a password, he will not allow us to do this. The only one that will be able to create, just a moment guys. So let's continue guys. Now we will see if I can create a user or local user. Now I am denied because I am not the local administrator of this machine. So let's see if I can create a user using the local administrator. So now remember that this is the user control or user access control. It didn't appear if you noticed, because I have a group policy to disable user account control. So we need to log off and log in back with the local administrator user and see if I can create a user. So this will be done. So now we will go with PAW2 user, okay, and see if I can create an account. So this I am just revising and seeing. So now we will go and tell him okay, and then we will log off and log in with the PAW2 user, which is an administrator on this machine. So now we will think not this one. We need to right click and then sign out. Okay, we need to sign out, start and then sign out. Okay, right click and sign out. This is easier to right click and sign out. No, this is not a way. Okay, so by the way I can pass it real quickly. Anyway, so we will sign out and then we will go and log in with the PAW2 user. So now we will log in with PAW2. This is the local administrator on the machine. So if we can go and log in and see if I can create a user. Okay, this is PAW maintenance user. So now we have our local administrator. If we can go now and open the manage. So here we will open start and then we'll open documents, and then we can right click and manage. Here we right click this PC and manage, and then we will see if I can create a user. Now I am the local administrator. So let's see. ايوه ثواني بابا. ايه بابا اللي معلقه ثانية. So let's continue guys. Let's see if I can create a user. So now we will make a user called test. Okay, and then we'll put a password and then we'll confirm the password, and let's see if this will be created. Just wait for a moment. I need to make sure that I am recording. Okay, so now yes I am. So now we can see that the user is created. Okay, so now I can delete it easily. So now this is that means that I am the local administrator, so I can create local users on the machine. Now we need to go and test to see if Kelvin McDonald, he is the Azure administrator, he needs to go and see if he can access the internet. And by the way, we need to check all of the groups and see if they have any members in it, just to make sure that our group policy or PAW computer group policy is applied. We can see backup operators is empty, cryptic operators is empty, power users should be empty, replicators should be empty. So all of this we have defined in the group policy. So this means our group policy is applied successfully. Network configurator operators, okay, it is empty. Remote desktop users is empty. So all of this we have defined in the group policy, PAW computer group policy. So now we have done all of this. Okay, backup operators. So this means our group policy is applied. We need to test the last thing to see if I can, as an Azure administrator, access the internet. and to have another user that is not an Azure account or is not an Azure administrator, so to see if I can access the internet. So let's see. By the way, the local administrator on the machine can access the internet. Okay, so the only one or the only two that can access the internet is the local administrator and the Azure administrator. Okay, so now if you go to the proxy setting and see, we can see that the proxy setting will be off. Okay, so that means that I can access the internet. If the proxy setting is on and there is an IP, that means that I am blocked to access internet. If the proxy server is on and there is no IP in the setting, that means that I have access to internet. So let's go here to the setting and see what we will see here. If we go to accounts, I think we can pause this real quickly, accounts, and then we will go, okay, we go to the accounts here, sorry, network and VPN here, to go to this one, network and VPN. Okay, network and VPN. Okay, this is it. Here we can see that if you go to the proxy automatic setting is on according to the group policy that we have done before, and if you go now, the proxy server is off, so that means that I can access the internet. Okay, so this is one. So let's continue, guys. Now we will log in with the Azure admin Active Directory user, which is Kevin McLaren, or Kevin, I think, yes, Kevin McDonald. Okay, so we'll see if he will log in to the workstation, and we will see if he can access the internet, and we will see his proxy settings. So let's see now when we log in. This is the local administrator account, PAW2. We can see here that the proxy, it is disabled or it is off, and it's automatically detect setting. If we log in with Kelvin McDonald, he is the Azure administrator, so we should see the proxy setting on, and he can access the internet. So let's log in first here with Kelvin. Okay, and then this is ITW admin 2. This is another user that is not an Azure administrator, so we should see that he has a proxy, and the proxy is 127.0.0.1, so this means that he can't access the internet. When we log in with Kelvin McDonald, we can see that he can access the internet because he is the Azure administrator. So if you go now and see the proxy setting, if we open the setting here, and then maximize the window, and then we can open network and internet. If we go to the proxy, here we can see that it is already dimmed, so he cannot change, this user cannot change the proxy setting. And if we go down, we can see here that his proxy is 127.0.0.1. when the proxy setting is set with this IP address, this means that the internet is blocked from the user. Okay, so this means that user cannot access the internet. Let's see if Kelvin McDonald logged in. Can he access the internet, and what about the proxy address? Does it will contain 127.0.0.1 or what? So let's see if when we log in with Kelvin, which he is the Azure administrator. So let's log out. Right click and sign out. And then we will log in with Kelvin. Kelvin McDonald. Kevin McDonald, he is the Azure administrator, and he is allowed to access the internet. Okay, this is done using a group policy, so he is a member of a group that I have configured through the group policy to be able to access the internet from the PAW, and he is the only one to access the internet and to access the Azure. I think I am specifying to access the internet in general. Okay, so now let's see if he can access the internet. So now let's see if he can access the internet. I think we can pass this real quickly. Anyway, if we can go further, and then let's see the proxy setting for Kelvin. We will see that the proxy setting for Kelvin, it is already the proxy server is on, but there is no IP address. So let me show you all what I mean by this. So here, if we go to the proxy, then we can see that these settings are dimmed. But if you go to the IP address of the proxy, okay, if you go down, we will see here, first of all, we will see that the proxy is off. So the proxy setting is off and there is no address. So that means that he can access the internet. As for the other user, we can see that the proxy was on and there is an IP address, which is 127.0.0.1, which means that he is blocked from accessing the internet. So this is because Kelvin McDonald, he is an Azure administrator, so he needs to access his virtual machines on the cloud using a secure workstation. So he can do this through the PAW. So let's continue. Then we need to do something. We need to see if I can access a workstation in tier 1 or the ally tier, if I can access a workstation in tier 1 using my domain admin account. So we will shut down the machine and then open tank 10, which is a workstation in the ally tier. I will try to access it using my domain admin account. So I think we can pass this real quickly. Maybe just wait for a moment. I think all of this is not there. I think we can now try to access. We will start or shut down the machine, okay, and then we will open tank 10, okay, which we need to see if I can access it using my domain admin account. We can pass this real quickly, so we can go there. Just wait for a moment. Here is just a moment. This is the account, or this is tank 10. Okay, no, I need to access another thing, so we'll just log out. Sorry, I think we can log out again. Just a moment. Log out. So here, if I try to access this workstation in tier 1 using my domain admin account, I will not be able to do this. Okay, we have configured this in the previous video, so I can't access this workstation in tier 1, neither the PAW nor the workstation. So this is done using the deny group policy that we have configured earlier. Okay, so now I will shut down the machine. You can shut it down from this icon. Okay, and then we will take a snapshot. Okay, so this is all for our video. Now we have configured our PAW, and we have tested all of this configuration live with this machine by creating a new PAW and test all the setting in it. So I think we can pause this real quickly. We will shut down. I think there is no other thing, and then I think now we will shut down also the server from this icon. Okay, so that is all for this video. Hope this video is informative to you all, and would like to thank you all for viewing. Do not forget to subscribe to the channel and share the video and like if it is useful. And the upcoming video will begin, I think, working with configuring group policies to secure the Active Directory. Now we have secured the Active Directory from the hacking by these processes, but we will secure the Active Directory more by making some group policies to harden the Active Directory security. Thank you so much.